Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Danny, and today I wanted to touch base on something. I just found this very interesting. I found this whole thing is going to be what I deem rather interesting, an interesting coincidence, if you will, and it very well may just be a coincidence. Ironically, I had been looking into this right around the same time that the Patriotic Housewife had come out with her video recently regarding who Erika Kirk's attorney is. And if you haven't checked that out, certainly go onto her channel and take a look at that. But just to summarize very, very briefly, because I don't even have their name, her attorney's name, but essentially that attorney was very directly associated with the fancy individual who had his own island. So trying to refrain on certain words for sure. I've noticed that a lot of my even well-performing videos just recently were not being pushed out as much as they were in the beginning. I think that's due to certain verbiage, so I'm going to watch my mouth, if you will. But I found this a very interesting topic that I wanted to cover. So I had decided to dig into this whole Terrell Farnsworth's cousin is an attorney for the Tyler Robinson side of the case. And while I was under the impression, and I'd have to try and really dig through past videos I've watched as to where I got that information, but I was trying to get confirmation because I am someone who definitely wants confirmation. There is so much information that gets put out there that is absolutely, just fabricated. And unfortunately, I have not been able to verify that. So while I want to figure out where I heard that from, because I believe the individual who originally stated it was someone I believed to be pretty reputable. So I don't know if they have information that I can't seem to get my hands on, but I have not been able to confirm nor deny that Terrell Farnsworth is the cousin of one of the attorneys that's representing Tyler Robinson. When I looked into this, I was trying to determine which attorney was supposedly his cousin. So whether that was, I couldn't recall if this was Catherine Nestor or if it was Michael Burt. Every time I looked it up, it came up with Michael Burt, and then I got, confirmation that this has not been verified. There's been no evidence. So I can't speak to the validity of that, but I decided to look into Michael Burt. Now, I went as far as trying to get like the people search, memberships to try and find who some of these people might be related to. If you've ever gone into those, you can see that when you go in there, it'll give you a list of people who are potentially related to this person, addresses they've lived at, etc. I still was not able to find much of anything. What I did find out when I started looking into Michael Burt, the attorney, is that he is a death penalty specific attorney. And it's very intriguing, to me at least, that Michael Burt was the death penalty attorney for Lyle Menendez of the Menendez brothers. So if you're not familiar with the Menendez brothers case, I don't know where you've been for the last 30 years. I'm going to just share a little bit of information on that that I'm going to pull up here. And there are a few connections that I find intriguing. So again, there's a specific reason why I wanted to share the actual article I was reading here. This is just one that I pulled up. It's not one that, I didn't like dive deep into. I knew about this case. I've followed it, but I've never done like some hardcore research or anything into it. But there are some things that I find intriguing. So let's take a look. So for anyone who is not familiar, the Menendez brothers, they killed their parents. They killed their parents back in 1989. This was August 20th, 1989. Jose and Mary Louise, also known as Kitty Menendez, were shot to death in their Beverly Hills home. Okay, these two individuals were highly connected to Hollywood. Okay, Hollyweird, as some people like to refer to it. And the Menendez brothers fatally shot their parents, Jose and Kitty, in August of 1989. They were caught about 6 months later after police were alerted to taped confessions from their therapy sessions. Prosecutors argued greed over their inheritance, again, because they did come from money. Their parents had money due to his ties to Hollywood, Jose's ties to Hollywood. And it was assumed that the inheritance is what fueled the Menendez brothers' crimes. But Lyle and Eric have maintained that they killed their parents because their father was emotionally and abusive and their mother didn't protect them. I did find that interesting, given a lot of the same kinds of topics coming up during this Charlie Kirk investigation. Now, granted, when you look at basically anything in Hollywood, that connection is going to come up. But I found that interesting. This May, the convicted murderers were resentenced. They're now eligible for parole, but they were both denied. So that has not changed. Now, again, just to clarify, Lyle Menendez, one of the brothers, attorney for this death penalty case, was the exact same attorney that has been assigned to the Tyler Robinson case due to the death penalty association with this trial. I find that interesting. So I started looking a little bit more into, I'm going to pull this down here really quick. I decided to look a little more into what it means to be a death penalty attorney, because it is less common. So while there are hundreds of thousands of attorneys that practice law in the United States of America, currently there are approximately 1,000 to 3,000 attorneys that are specifically dedicated to death penalty cases. Given that, I went ahead and asked Grok to give me the odds that the same death penalty attorney was assigned to the Tyler Robinson case as the Menendez brothers case. Mind you, this is a very large gap between these two cases. So I find that interesting as well. I find it interesting that they're going for an attorney who has been practicing for so long, which does, obviously he's seasoned. He probably knows what he's doing. I'm sure of that. I just think it's interesting given the fact that if there's 1,000 to 3,000 attorneys practicing death penalty law in the United States, I don't know. Going with one who's been around for a really long time, but maybe hasn't, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of times I would think that maybe people are looking for like the up and comers or like, but he's got some associations with high profile cases. So that could be why they chose him. But it is something that is selected. So it's not necessarily random. It's selected by like the state or the court that's running the trial. To my knowledge, that's what I found. So when I asked Grok, it said there was a direct overlap. Michael Burt, a veteran death penalty defense attorney from California, served as co-counsel for Lyle Menendez during the brothers' first trial in 1993, which ended in a mistrial. He has since been appointed to Tyler Robinson's defense team in the ongoing Utah capital case alongside Catherine Nestor, lead appointed counsel, and Richard Novak. Burt is highly qualified with nearly 50 years of experience, including dozens of capital trials across multiple states, and he edits the California Death Penalty Defense Manual. Obviously very seasoned, obviously has a lot of knowledge. To estimate the odds of this overlap occurring by chance, that is the prior probability that the same specific attorney from a 30-year-old California case would be appointed to a new high-profile Utah capital case, we can model it as roughly 1 out of n, whereas n is the size of pool of active qualified death penalty defense attorneys in the U.S. who could plausibly be appointed to such a case. As previously estimated, this pool is likely to be 1,000 to 3,000 attorneys nationwide, based on the rarity of capital expertise, requiring at least 5 years of criminal defense experience per ABA standards, plus specialized training, declining death sentences, fewer than 30 annually, and a concentration in 27 death penalty states plus federal military systems. The actual pool for out-of-state appointments is high-profile cases like Robinson's, where California experts were brought in, may be smaller, perhaps 500 to 1,000 elite or learned counsel types of national experience. This yields odds of approximately 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 3,000, or 0.03% to 0.1% probability. Pretty small, if you ask me. For a specific attorney like Burt being selected, assuming random assignment from the pool, In reality, selection isn't purely random. Courts prioritize top experts, which totally makes sense, making the potential overlap slightly less improbable. But then Grok continues to go on, saying factoring in team size, 2 to 4 attorneys per case, and the 30-year gap, many from the 1990s era are retired. Again, interesting. The coincidence remains striking. So even Grok says that it is a striking coincidence that Tyler Robinson's death penalty attorney happens to be the same exact death penalty attorney that was assigned to Lyle Menendez back in the 90s. I find this interesting. As I continued to read through the article, going over just the specifics about the Menendez brothers and everything that took place. I'm not going to read the whole thing because we're not going into like a whole big thing. I did try to do some very briefly. So I'm going to continue to dig. If anybody has information, by all means, let me know in the comments. Also, if you're enjoying the content, I would love it if you would subscribe, chat, comment in the comments. I love that. And share if you're feeling ever so inclined. I would really appreciate it. I found it interesting. Let me get to the part here where I was reading further down here. Let's see. Okay, so that's going into when the night of. I wanted to find on here, I found this section here I found interesting. It says Lyle was arrested on March 8th, 1990, and Eric was in the country of our greatest allies at the time for a tennis tournament, flew into Miami and then Los Angeles, where he turned himself into police on March 11th. Now, that could be nothing. I just find that interesting. At a tennis tournament here. Now, also, another coincidence that I could not find much information on, and I can't say that there's anything more than it just being a coincidence, is that Kitty Menendez, the wife of Jose Menendez and the mother of the two boys, grew up in the Chicago, Illinois area, and she participated in beauty pageants. She happened to win a local beauty pageant in that area. So when I was trying to do some research, Grok continued to tell me there was no overlap, given that, she was from the Chicago area and the Francevays are from, Arizona. But I do find it interesting that Kitty happened to be from Charlie Kirk's area. It's probably nothing, I'm sure, because again, the gaps in these situations when she was participating in the pageant world and, when Charlie Kirk graced the world with his presence are very, very separate. I just found that interesting. I would love to know what you all think about this information. I find it curious. If anybody has any more information than I do on attorneys and how they're selected and information like that, whether you're an attorney yourself, then by all means, enlighten me, share it in the comments. Like I said, please like and subscribe. And I think that's going to do it for this episode, but I appreciate everyone watching. If you're ever wanting to support the channel while I grow here, because I am in the process of getting to monetization, I'm not quite there yet. If you're wanting to support, I did create a buy me a coffee account. You can find that in the description to the video and to the channel. If you'd like to support, you don't have to feel pressured to do so by any means. I would be thrilled with just a like and a subscribe. So again, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Prepare yourselves for this big storm we're getting, because I don't know where you guys are located. We're kind of right on the cusp where I am, but it sounds like people down south, I don't know, guys. It's not looking great. I hope everyone's safe. And I might be going live later tonight. So if you're wanting to join, I would be thrilled. I've had, a few lives that I've gone on, but one in particular that was really successful. I love chatting with everybody. So I would love it if you would join me. And I'll talk to y'all later. All right. Have a good one. Bye.